Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing well. This is the Hair Geek, where we talk about some curious and some cool facts about hair. Have you ever wondered why most of our presidents in recent history have not been bald? That's what we were talking about here. At the recording of the video, we are getting ready for elections here in the US in 2020, so no political affiliation, no political discussion, just talking about hair. So stay tuned. So over the years that I've been teaching about hair loss and hair transplantation to many people, from lay people to physicians to medical students to residents, it's always awesome to me to see how much hair loss, and also doing surgery and seeing patients every day, how hair changes our appearance, right? Seems like a simple, silly thing, but hair is important. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be in business, obviously, and we wouldn't have such a high industry, such a large industry in hair products and hairstyling things and everything like that. So obviously hair serves a purpose to us, which is an appearance purpose, and it can actually change perception of people of you or us. It sucks to think that way, that people would stigmatize us or have a stereotype, but we know from psychological research, many articles over the years that have been published, and there is a perception that's different. So one of the key articles that was published a few years back in a psychology journal actually got people that were applying for a job, and they send in people the same age, same CV, same accolades, same thing, but some of them had hair loss and some of them did not. And then the interviewer, or the person that was interviewing, didn't know what they were doing, so he was completely oblivious, but he was asked to grade those candidates, and most of the candidates with hair rated higher and then were more likely to be hired by that position. So again, it sucks that it's this way, but we live in a reality. So I know a lot of people that shave their head bald. They look great, they look cool, and it's their style, has nothing to do with their personality. But again, from psychology studies, we know that first impression is very important, and usually people make a first impression within the first few seconds of meeting you. So just to illustrate that point. And then I figured, well, election time, and I started doing a little bit, I've always been a little bit inclined in history, so I kind of said, well, let's see how many presidents we had in the history of the US that actually were bald, and that's what I have for you here. So let's take a look. Not many of them, I can tell you. So if I can open here. So what I did is I did some research on the internet, and I pulled up pictures of all the presidents from our first president, George Washington, to the two candidates that we have in 2020. We'll get to them. But of course, curious thing here, and a segue for another upcoming video. Mr. Washington, Mr. Adams, Mr. Jefferson, and James Madison, you notice that they have the white hair here. This is back in the 1700s, late 1700s, late 18th century, turn of the 19th century, and at that point there was something very interesting going on with the powder wigs. So again, stay tuned for another video on that I'm putting together. It's actually very cool history and very cool facts about it. So anyway, they were more of the powdered wig kind of thing. George Washington, curiously, did not wear wigs because he had good hair. He just put flour on his hair because, again, at that time it was cool to have powdered hair, so he used that. John Adams was bald, you can see on the picture here, but he wore the wigs every time he was in front of someone. And then you can see John Adams was a little bit bald too, so at that time, the wigs were already in and not being used as much. There you go. So then, most of the other ones, from Millard Fillmore, Ulysses Grant, Abraham Lincoln, they all had good hair on their heads. They were not bald. Some that had receding hairlines or some thinning hair, but they all had, for the most part, a good head of hair. I don't know why this is doing it to me. Oh, okay, I got it. Perfect. So then, from Rutherford Hayes, Grover Cleveland was bald. You can see balding. He had a little bit of a recession here, but everybody else was good hair. So Woodrow Wilson had hair. William Taft had hair. Most of these guys had good hair. Some nice hairstyles there with a little bit of a comb over maybe. So they were all trying to figure out what to do with their hair. Dwight Eisenhower was known for having little hair, but still had hair, wasn't completely bald. Everybody knows John F. Kennedy's hair, right? It's a symbol of his virility and a big part of his appearance. So Mr. Hoover had hair, Franklin Roosevelt had hair. Maybe they lost some during their presidencies because at that time, historically, there was a lot going on. Ronald Reagan, also famous for his Hollywood locks. Gerald Ford was pretty thin, but still had some hair. So none of these guys were really bald, right? Bill Clinton had good hair. Whatever you think about him doesn't matter. And then George Bush, Barack Obama, and our two candidates this year. Of course, it's speculation. I don't know that for a fact, but it looks like both of these guys had some hair loss issues that they addressed at some point. I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to have any hate comments down here. So I don't have a preference for each one. So why is that? Why most of our presidents have had hair? Well, again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning. It's an impression thing, right? So even in Hollywood, they do the hair thing too. If you're like me, if you're into TV series and everything like that, Breaking Bad, right? Huge success. I'm a big fan of the series. And this is Bryan Cranston, the actor, did a great job, by the way. All of them did. I really loved it. And the character transformation that they did from him from the first episode, the geeky sort of chemistry teacher, high school teacher, through, Walter White's, drug lord and assassin and badass guy. Not only they changed his personality, but the look went to it. Of course, they tied it together with him having lung cancer and all that stuff. But, I mean, you wouldn't be so afraid of this guy if you saw him out on the street, right? But you would definitely take this one serious, right? So when you talk about Heisenberg, and this was the name that he assumed in the series too, I mean, it is very cool. And the progression of his character has a lot to do with the image too. So, again, doesn't mean anything really. What your personality is. I mean, I know the sweetest people they look like this. So you would look at them and say, "Wow, that guy! It's very kind of badass attitude." And they're the nicest guy. So it doesn't mean anything really, but the impression when you look, it does something to you. And then I found this picture here of me actually. This was 1999 actually. It was when I went to my first hair conference in Hawaii. I moved from Brazil to the U.S. in 1997. Started working at Medical Hair Restoration in 1998, and I went to my first hair conference in 1999. And at that point, Merck was releasing Propecia, right, the drug for hair loss. And they had this booth at the meeting, so they would take a picture of you like this. And they would Photoshop your hair out of the picture, and they will give you a bald picture of yourself, just so you can contrast what you would be like with hair. That's how most of my family looks like, by the way. Everybody in my family has no hair. So when I looked at that, I'm like, wow. And I thought I couldn't get any uglier, But hair makes a big difference. And although this is now 21 years ago, of course, many things have changed. But I've managed to keep most of my hair through transplants, through treatments. So, what I say here on this channel, what you should do for your hair loss, I do it myself every day, and I've had the same procedures that we perform on patients. So, I am a product of the same thing that we try to get people to do. But again, if I was voting for these two guys, or if I was maybe hiring one of them, I think with the hair I look a little bit less frightening. So. Anyway, it was just to illustrate the point. I thought I would make this kind of lighthearted and hopefully it wasn't offensive to anyone. This is not the point. I understand how thing is. But again, these facts are a reality of life. And there's nothing wrong with having hair loss, nothing wrong with being bald, whether you're a man or a woman. And but it's just something that is curious. I thought it was kind of a fun thing to address. Anyway, if you like it, I hope you did. Subscribe to the channel, click the like button. We will be producing more content on this, including on the powder wigs, a pretty cool thing coming up. and I'll see you next time.